Hello, you are tuning into Media Soundwave. My name is Heather Cassidy, and today we are joined by lots and lots of guests. We have Tony Moran, who is the founder director of the Business Executive Club, and we have Chris Manka and Robert Downs with us from the Federation of Small Businesses. Now guys, I just want to talk to you today about car parking and how it is affecting where we choose to shop, what it's doing to the high street, what it's doing to business and people's livelihoods really at the end of the day. So Robert, how have you seen it affecting high streets differently around the country?
Yeah, I think everyone, all your viewers will understand that car parking does have an impact on high streets and therefore does have an impact on business. We all know if you've got to put your hand in your pocket to pay to go shopping, then the temptation is to go to an out-of-town shopping centre. We've all heard that cry before. I think we are now worryingly entering a stage where we have a lot of councils across the country who are facing very tough times, budgets seriously under pressure, and I think the temptation, as we are seeing in a number of authorities across the country, where councils are looking to use car parking as a means to raise revenue, and unfortunately
even more so now, wasn't it? It's just been announced last week in the press that Manchester Council are looking at doing more on working parking, aren't they?
Yeah, that's the workplace parking levy, which we're very worried about actually, and I think rightly so are a lot of businesses in Greater Manchester. That's actually a levy for businesses that have car parking spaces within the city centre of Manchester.
So they actually own these car parking spaces. They are nothing to do with the council, but the council are wanting to.
They will levy them for having their workers, employees coming to park there. And Nottingham do something similar, and it's somewhere in the region of £400 per space. So it's
£400 per space per year.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, and sometimes that's passed on to the employee as well.
So guys, do you think this is all to do with environmental? They're trying to encourage more people to get public transport. Why do you think it's happening?
Well, the workplace parking levy, that's actually being billed as a pollution levy to try and reduce pollution levels in Greater Manchester, and we do have an issue with pollution in Greater Manchester.
I don't think that's the way to go though.
Well, there are many questions over whether that would actually have the effect of reducing traffic in. It's just going to be a regressive tax for a lot of businesses.
I think we need to look more at rewarding people for good behaviour. So we had a company recently on the show called Energy Token, and they're a local company, and they're working on the blockchain and with cryptocurrency to reward people for good energy efficient behaviour and how it'll affect the environment. And I think that's what we should be doing. We should be rewarding people for getting public transport, rewarding people for car sharing. I think we need to be looking at different schemes we can do with the council and nationally and as business owners to be able to reward our employees and reward those in our community for energy efficient behaviour, rather than, okay, you're driving in, let's charge you some more money, because I don't think it's going to affect pollution. It just makes me huff and puff. I parked recently for a meeting. It was a breakfast meeting I went to in Manchester, and I paid £17 for parking. I wasn't out of my car for more than 4 hours. So by the time I got out my car, walked to my meeting, had a meeting, did a little bit of networking afterwards, got back to my car, and it was £17. This isn't going to encourage people to come and use our shops. This isn't going to encourage people to come and do business in the area. It isn't going to encourage people to have meetings. If I can go to somewhere outside of the city and have a meeting and not pay to park, I'm going to go, can we meet outside of the city? It's going to take people out of the city rather than bringing people in.
I think that's the crux of the matter, where you get the council has a sort of an idea to generate the use of the public space. And if that isn't being used properly, very quickly town centres will decline and you'll get shops becoming empty. And so whether you're using facilities for business meetings or whether it's for retail, we'd like to see more independent retail around the place, because it's nice to go out somewhere, it's nice to be entertained and see something different and not go to the same old malls where you see the same old chains everywhere.
But we all want to live in a town as well where we can walk out to a shop, if we can walk out to somewhere and buy bread, if we can walk out to somewhere and buy fruit and veg, if we can walk out and go to a nice restaurant and enjoy a meal with our friends and family and walk home at the end of the day. There's nothing better. You don't really want to be getting in your car and thinking about how you're going to get home. And I think by breaking down the high streets, not only are we taking away from the high street, taking people's livelihoods away, we're actually breaking up communities, because people stop going out and you get in the habit. A few years ago I met Tony as the chair of the Denton Town team. Can you tell me more about that and how through that work you were able to see how car parking affects small town centres such as Denton?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it is a very major factor in the success of any high street is the ability to park. Side streets of the high street were congested, hard to navigate if you're trying to park, and did cause an issue. But
Because
we
people do go out of their way to park for free.
Do you know,
there might be a car park there and it might be 20p or it might be £20.
Sure.
But you're going to go out of your way just out of ease, isn't it? Sometimes you've not got 20p in your pocket. You've got it in the bank, but you've not got it in your pocket.
We have a culture of a total dislike for paying for car parking.
We don't like it.
We just don't like it, you know. And as I say, it's a double-edged sword because, you know, councils wanted to promote business in the high street under the scheme, and by the same token, they want to bring in revenue. So I was saying that the two are like oil and water; they just don't gel together. You either have an allocated time of free parking, like we looked at requesting a Saturday afternoon totally free for people coming to the town centre. We got in discussion with bigger retailers, outlets who had massive car parks that were empty near the town, one right near Crown Point, and they accommodated up to, I think it was 46 free car parking spaces,
Right, okay.
part of their community gift, and that was fine. But only last Friday, on the high street issue, one of the big retailers said we're no longer facilitating this because our plans are to put in plate recognition schemes. That was Friday morning, and it's to go live on Monday. But to be fair, you know, we did get in touch with our MP, Andrew Gwynn, who was very proactive.
He does a lot of work. He's
very
good. Proactive.
Yeah, very proactive. And by 4 o'clock that day, he penned a letter to the planning office at Tameside, asking them to, and got some information regarding that it was part of the planning permission to have a car parking free for the community.
And sometimes it's in the planning permission, isn't it, that people have to provide parking for other businesses in the area to be allowed to build a business.
Exactly right, Heather. And what happened? So if we look back to the year, I think it was 2000, 2001, when planning permission was given, it was put in as part of the agreement, yes. However, there has to be a facility for the community to park throughout the day and even at evenings. And I think the allocation was 46 spaces for cars.
Okay.
And now what happened since then was, 2001, we're now in 2018.
As I say, that's a long time to then go back on something that's been agreed a long time.
And people forget. So the head
We might have
office-
new managers come in that don't
exactly
know what
right.
the
And that
original
was
agreement was.
You know, Heather, that was exactly the case. New manager came in place, a new chief exec was appointed, I think, at one of the retailers, and they said, right, this is how we can restrict this, and off they pop. And it has been suspended. We're now on a consultation with the retailer, which is good. But you mentioned about city centres, and you've got town centres and you've got city centres. Two different, how can I say, solutions really. One of the things we have been keen to push is with Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Manchester, and he's looking
His
at
name keeps coming up. He's doing so much.
great guy.
He's
Great
working
guy.
on so many things.
From the private sector, we spoke to him pre his election, and what he was saying was he wants to work in partnership with businesses, and he was looking at the Oyster system that they have in London, where at the moment on the transport getting into city centre, we've got that different agencies working. He's looking to uniform that, where you have a card, an Oyster card, which you can then use universally on every transport to get into city centre.
That would make it a lot easier, especially
So
if you
easier.
can prepay on your card, because as we were saying with car parking, sometimes you just don't have the change on you. Or recently there'd been that young girl, that 15-year-old up in Wilmslow, and she'd been turfed off a bus, and because she'd paid with a £20 note that her parents had given her, which would cover her bus fare and her train fare, they didn't have the change to give her. They
Exactly.
gave a very young girl a credit note. What can a young girl do with a credit note from a £20 note? Common sense would tell you that's not good. She can't get the train with a credit note. What if she wasn't ever going to use that bus service again? I know she will do, but what if she wasn't, and then she was stuck and stranded and had to make arrangements and find people to come and pick her up? Now, as a mother, that frightens me, that who was this person that was driving this bus and why was this the protocol? She's gone to pay. There should be other things in place. Now, as a parent, if you can prepay for things like an Oyster card for your children, and you know that they can then get all around the city, it's just such a safer thing, isn't it? As well as convenience.
I think that's also the issue with bigger cities. It's fine, like everyone's used to London, where you've got the Oyster card, and public transport works very, very well there, and you don't really
They are very lucky for their
you
public
don't really need
transport.
a private transport to get around London. In fact, it's more of a hindrance. But the rest of the country is still very much geared towards the car because the public transport infrastructure doesn't exist, not to the same extent. It doesn't facilitate regular travel, reliable travel, and so people need to rely on their cars. And it's in those instances that we're looking at parking charges and actually trying to make sure that parking charges are predominantly fair. Rob's done a lot of work on doing a free period of time before the charge actually starts to cut in. So be that 30 minutes, be that an
That does
hour.
work. That does work. One of my near
Yeah.
supermarkets, without naming anybody, I can go and I can get a ticket, and for 20 minutes I can run in that shop, get what I need for tea, and get back in the
Yes.
car.
Yeah, it's a sensible option.
And that's
And
great.
it
It's
boosts
sensible.
the local economy. It keeps that regular kind of footfall going, and that's the important thing to local businesses.
There's actually too many councils who do have no grace period for parking, and yeah, our argument really is that even if it's just 20 minutes, half an hour in a district centre, that's enough for your loaf of bread, pint of milk shopper who can pop in.
If you only want one thing and you've got
Yeah.
no
Or you've got
change
dry
on you, and
cleaning
you're
to
like,
pick up, that kind of thing.
if I've got £5 to put in to just go and pick my dry cleaning
Yeah.
up, it'd make you then go to a supermarket
Yes.
that offered a dry cleaning service rather than an independent, because you can generally park for free or you can get a refund off a certain amount if you spend so much, which you would
Yeah.
with your dry cleaning.
And then the
It's-
local community will complain that the high street's dying, and so you need to have that.
But we all want a
Push
high
and
street,
pull
we all
kind of
want a
approach.
local car
Yes,
street
very
that we
much
can
so.
walk down. And the problem is with empty shops, less people then will come to the shopping centre, which means that more businesses will die. So it's kind of a domino
Yes,
effect.
sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
sure. There's been a lot of studies and a lot of expensive studies been done on the benefits of the high street. And then the key word you mentioned was community,
Community,
which
always
is so
at the top of it.
important. I know what you mentioned about the regeneration of Altrincham, and I remember when Altrincham was dying on its feet.
Yeah.
It was really, and that commitment to regenerate, and it's now looking good.
That was on the back of the Trafford Centre, which offers free parking.
Exactly
stuck
right.
In,
You're exactly
stuck
right.
in the life of,
Yeah.
out of Altrincham.
But the Trafford
Yeah.
Centre is fantastic in its own right because it has so many great shops and because you can park for free. So I think we do need to look at what is it doing well and what can we use from that to
And how
take
can
into
you
the
keep
high
the high
street.
street competitive with those places? Because that's what it needs to be.
Exactly right, and you have to look at we'll look at success stories. I think Altrincham being one in the town that in my own town where we had say 6 years ago, reporting in the national press, we had 26 to 28% empty shops on the high street. Now within 5 years, 6 years, we actually turned that around to a rolling changeover of 2 to 3%. So we managed to get people back into the town, onto the high street, because we
What did
used.
they do to do that then?
Sure. Well, what we did, we obviously we started off. It was a scheme of you mentioned it before, of a reward scheme. So certain shops signed up to a reward scheme where they used the card, and they got a reward, and then you
Okay.
would refer people, let's say, to the local hairdresser, to the local dry cleaner, to the local bakery. And what happened was this engaging with the people, the footfall that needs
So
to
was
come
this
in.
different businesses recommending other businesses
Correct.
in the area? Okay.
Yeah. So we had a network of the local photographer, but we encompassed a very broad group of people on the town scene because it needs business skills. It needs entrepreneurial skills. We needed young people who saw it from a different point of view, and then also on the side of we need to engage with the local authorities. And what I'm going to say, that was the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
This culture, we had to try and do a culture change. But to be fair to say, once they'd embraced it, they were very enthusiastic. And then we came to a point where we needed to go to the next stage. To give you an example, we put a community event on in the town centre. Businesses sponsored it, we got businesses to pay for it. And it cost us, in fact, we broke even, so we're quite. But the footfall, the Friday, Saturday and Sunday at Christmas, which was we launched it at the end of November, we had 3,500 people footfall that weekend coming into the town centre.
That's a lot for such a small town centre. That is a great number.
And the shops stayed open Saturday, some opened on a Sunday, and it was absolutely, you know.
And that alone would have put energy back into those businesses.
Correct.
Because the business owners would have been happy. People would have come out and enjoyed the environment of
That's
shopping
right.
in that
Yeah.
environment.
Well, it's all about footfall. It really is. You know, that's what it's all about for businesses.
That's right.
They need a steady flow of people into the town centres to come and spend the money in the shops. And you know, there's no better way to highlight this, I suppose, than looking at what most councils will offer at Christmas, which is free parking on a Saturday, and then that's
Excellent.
tipping the hat towards the fact
Yeah.
that free parking will bring the shoppers in. There's a really nice anecdote as well from Wales, Cardigan. There was a town a couple of years ago when their high street had two parking meters, both got vandalised, and within a matter of weeks, because people couldn't pay and the council had to suspend parking charges, the shopkeepers in Cardigan were reporting huge numbers of people
That just shows you
returning.
though, doesn't it?
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah,
Finally,
yeah.
I mean,
How does it take vandalising a machine for common sense to
Yeah, we're not
prevail
looking-
and go, if we're not paying for parking,
It's not something
people
we'd
are
like to
going to
recommend.
shop. Because it does, it puts people off going. There's certain
You're right,
shops
Heather.
near me now where I used to use these certain brands, but because now I have to mess around and find the change, I actually just go to an alternative shop down the road. And it's not because I'm choosing a certain brand over another, it's literally just for ease of parking.
exactly
And
right.
it's just a shame that people can't see this, especially when it's public services like libraries, and you're not going in a library because you're paying to park. And I just think that's terrible, because not only are we seeing the decline of libraries and they're shutting down and they're open for less hours, but if during the day that they are actually open for a few hours, you can't take your children to use these services. I think it's such a shame, because our children are missing out, and also
Community.
other people again in the community,
Yeah, very
flagging that
true.
word up
Yeah,
again.
yeah,
The
it's a key
communities
word,
are
yeah.
missing out, because it's just one extra place that people could go,
Sure.
be it for an event or something that was going on. But I think the more we lose the facilities like our libraries and our high street shops,
Wow.
the more it's just going to affect everybody.
Yeah, I mean, you perhaps touch on, you know, things like community, civic offers such as libraries. That, you know, they are under threat because of funding cuts. But I think this is something important to get across as well when it comes to car parking that a lot of people don't know, and that is under parking legislation, which I think is the Road Traffic Act 1984. Councils are not allowed actually to raise money via car parking.
Where does the money go?
Well, the money has to be used for the upkeep of existing car parks and to make sure that the wardens can go around and, you know, uphold parking permit areas.
Sure.
But you know, that's what the money's for. It's not to be used for general spend, and I think a lot of councils now are losing sight of that, in the hope as well that a lot of people don't know that, and are trying to push up parking prices to really, you know, plug their funding black holes. That's happened in Greater Manchester
But they're going to
recently.
be missing out on so much of business taxes and things like that if
Exactly.
our shops are closing down.
Yeah.
But also if we've got more unemployed, because there's not work there to give to
Heather.
people.
So true. I mean, what
It's
you
just
said
a
there,
knock-on
you've
effect.
absolutely hit it on the head. If locally in the community, if one person spends £5 a week in the local community at a local business which sustains employment,
It's not only
No.
their livelihood, it's also their staff.
exactly right, and then but that, you know, that equates to 1.6 billion nationally. There'd be another 1.6 billion put into the local economy on
If
the
you
high
weren't
street.
putting it in the parking meter,
Correct.
especially
so,
in Manchester.
You know, when you
Yeah,
say
yes.
when you say where's the money going, yeah, well, I can't see the benefit. But what I can see the benefit of is making free parking for allocated, like say, Christmas or Saturday afternoons. And if that person then goes into the high street, spends £1 nationally, it's worth 1.6 billion.
if
That is
everybody's doing it.
serious.
I think as well we need to look at the bigger picture. If everybody's coming into the high street, it doesn't matter whether they're getting the free parking now. Once the high streets are bustling again, once people have got the employment, people are getting their wages, business taxes are getting paid, we've got all this economy booming. But I might then actually think, oh, it's a nice day, I might get the bus or the train in. Just because the parking's free doesn't mean that I'm going to park. But
No.
at the moment, you're in and out because there is less shops. Whereas actually if you've got a bustling high street and you can start enjoying your community more,
Yeah.
you might look at other things, especially if before, as we mentioned, there's a reward scheme for taking the train rather than a penalty for parking.
Yeah.
It's the habit. Once we are back in the habit of using our high streets
Yes.
and the environment and the bustling, the sound and the people around you, I think people like that environment. If we come to our Christmas markets in winter in Manchester are absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
And
thriving.
sometimes they're frighteningly too busy.
Yes.
But on the other side, people enjoy being around people.
Do you know, Heather, we had a slogan called the Feel Good Factor. And it says, how good would you feel visiting your local high street today? and we did a survey.
If it's a ghost town, then it's not.
And people were saying, yeah, and we was exactly right, and we were going, right, okay, let's look at that. So what we did put actually some very good community events on to bring people back into the town centre. And the feedback then was, yeah, we went home from an event on the town civic square it was, and we felt good. The family, it was a conversational piece.
Yeah.
So then what we were saying then to local businesses, so how can we now keep that as a steady flow? What would we need to do? And to date, as I say, I think every town centre, high street, should have an appointed, designated. You used to have town managers years ago, and I think they've been washed away with the budget changes. But it does need a body. What the council are relying on at the moment is volunteers. Now, I had a good team of as you know, I had a good team of volunteers,
great team of people.
very proactive across all sections, and our success. What I actually wrote was our legacy. We were pleased of our legacy under the Porter scheme because we did engage with the community, who spent in the community.
But it's nice to see, because especially if you can start putting on events and they become regular events, that people can actually walk out with their children and do something as a family.
Well, if you build it, they will come type of scenario, yeah.
Yes,
and
you're right.
get used to it, habit.
Yeah, and if town centres have nothing to offer, but high car parking charges and boarded up shops, and no one will go there. And I think
it puts you off going. If you walk down a street and half of it is boarded up, you really don't want to go. I think the saddest state locally I've recently went to, I stopped at Stretford Arndale, came out of business meetings, thought I need to nip in and just get some last minute Christmas shopping. Oh, they'll have something there. And I walked around it and it was a ghost town. There's not one shop upstairs. More than half of it is closed off, and there's just one area of small shops, and it's...
But haven't they introduced free car parking there very recently?
They have, yes, and I think that works, isn't it, as well, where they take your registration when you come in and when you go out.
Yeah.
But it's
that should turn it around.
They should turn it around, and hopefully it will. But to see that it's gone from such a bustling centre, I hadn't been in years. I used to do some voluntary work years ago when I was at university, and I used to have to nip in there with people as part of what I was doing. And so to see it in the state that it is now, and to think, if this could happen to every high street around, it's just a waiting game, isn't it?
We mentioned it earlier, it did happen to Altrincham. It went completely downhill, and now it's bounced back. And the nice thing is that if you can actually inject that spirit of community back into a high street again, each particular area, we don't want to replicate Altrincham everywhere.
No, it wouldn't work.
But you can develop a local character and a bit of local passion and a bit of self-belief, and it actually helps people living in those areas to actually be able to focus on something that's good about where they are. And so it improves on many, many levels. But to actually encourage people to use the high street for short term, for longer term, give them the choice. But if you are going to be there for longer term, by all means let there be a parking charge to stop people leaving the cars there all day, for example.
And that makes sense, because if someone's going to leave their car there all day
and
they're not using it, and they don't need to, and it's just because they've left it, and they could have made alternative arrangements, and it's stopping people from shopping. I get that. I completely understand that. And I understand, as a business, you would want your customers to be able to park, not somebody who's parked down the road and your actual customers can't get on because, again, they'll leave and drive off. But what can we be doing? What things can we do to help businesses and to stop these car parking charges
we've found
rising?
an awful lot to have this idea of the free first hour. So an hour is free. You can nip in, do your stuff. That's even long enough to actually go and get a coffee somewhere.
I think in Rochdale, though, they actually they trialled the first 3 for free, and I think their statistics showed, after doing it for a year, that footfall in the town centre had increased by 40%. And that's not to say 40% of people were going into the shops and spending money, but they were certainly, it was bringing in a hell of a lot more people than before.
That's what you want, though. You want town centres busy again, and I think everything else will benefit off the back of it.
I think evidence has proven. I mean, if you look at, you mentioned Stretford Council, they realised the downfall and made a conscious decision to get back to a parking which was affordable or at point free.
People don't like paying to park.
It's
It's never going to change. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You don't like paying to park.
You're dead right. And again, it's so obvious. It's so obvious to entrepreneurs, business people, organisations like the FSB.
To anybody that thinks outside the box.
Exactly right. Yet we still have this reluctance to change, and we're going. At the end of the day, you can batter your head against the door. It needs forward-thinking people in local government. Let's to be fair.
But it's all about money, isn't it? And it's the low-hanging fruit. I think too many councils see this as the easy pickings, the
but
cash cow
there's more
business,
money
the
to
motorist.
come in if they scrap the car
Oh
parking.
yeah, it's very,
And like
very
you said,
narrow-minded.
if we do it as a limited time, so you're definitely getting your customers in your shop if you've got car parking, but also maybe a couple of your fellow neighbour shops will benefit as well. But if we put a time allowance on that, I think you will find more people will come. And if it's a case of, oh, actually, I want to go a little bit further afield, then I'll put my money in and I park, and I appreciate I'm not scaring customers away, and this is my action. I'm going to pay this because I'm keeping other people out of this space. It can work for everybody.
I think it can, but it needs some decent leadership from local authorities and
like you say,
leadership.
long-term vision is important, because I think the temptation is to go, oh, we're short of money, right, let's put car parking up, and it fills the coffers for a short period of time. But if you introduce the free hour or the 3 hours for free, or whatever the case may be, that takes a little while to change people's habits, to get them coming into the town centre. So you do need to measure the effect over a longer period of time. And I think that's what makes councils a little bit nervous, because they'll think, we've got to 6 months into it, what if it hasn't worked? You know, and it's.
I think sometimes it's time, because if you've actually stopped shopping in somewhere because of that, you've actually got to give word of mouth time to get round and people to find out, because just because you've put it in a paper, just because you've put it on a billboard, just because you've told a few people doesn't mean everybody will know, or even that everybody will remember. I think we have to hear something at least a certain amount of times before it sticks, or we'll go and go, oh, actually I've not paid for parking today, this is fantastic, and then you'll get people back again, and it's just word of mouth and habit again.
Yeah, you're so right there, Heather. I mean, what we did, we invited local businesses to come one evening and to put there, and it was like we sat there and we was inundated, we sort of got battered with, you know, negativity, you know, we go, okay, right, and it's this fault and that fault. So once we took the word fault out there, and we said, okay, so a customer walks into your shop, and the first thing said, do you enjoy the free parking that's now on offer? Oh, what? We're trialling it for 6 months. You know, it's also about the shopkeeper, the independent high street, has also got to engage.
And actually planting that seed in people's head, because they might not have realised. Whereas if they actually realise and they mention, oh, did you know it was free to park at such and such a place?
Exactly.
Oh, great, next time I'm shopping, I'll head there. And I think it's word of mouth.
You're dead right. It's that again, referring back to the benefits, you know, the positivity. We did a campaign called Discover Stenton. Very, very successful.
I remember the Discover Denton campaign,
you remember that?
Remember it?
And we had stickers and we had put in shops, you know, I'm a member of Discover Denton.
And the magazine?
In the magazine we did it. We revamped a website where people could enter their business, local business off the high street on for free, but also to put comments in. And it's like, you know, great success with free parking, you know, because at that time there were places to park. Sadly, in the last year, because again, a revenue, looking for revenue, they've now reduced that option. So as I think parking will raise its head again as one of the major issues to maintaining life on the high street, and it will come to the forefront this year as a major topic.
It's something we need to do, because all businesses are online now and people are growing online, but we still need our high street. We need this for the community and everything that we've covered today. But thank you so much to you all for joining us. Have any of you got any other points about this that I may have missed off? Have we covered everything?
I think
Stop ruining our high street.
No,
we don't want to pay to park. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks to all the crew for all your help today. If you've not yet subscribed to the show, please head over to www.mediasoundwave.co.uk. You'll find out all the information about these guys. You'll be able to subscribe to our other shows, check out any of our previous shows, and we hope to see you again here soon in Manchester on Media Soundwave.
Thank you, Heather.